everybody, what's up and welcome back to the garden. It's been a really long time since we've had a video, at least a couple weeks, but I wanted to get a jump start on this one. This is going to be what I'm winter sowing in March. Now I realize it's still February, but the time frames will vary depending upon where you live, especially for those people who live maybe further south than me, or your temperatures warm up a little sooner, so I did want to go into that. As far as what I'm winter sowing in February, basically February I'm still winter sowing the same things that I'm winter sowing in January. Lots of perennial flowers and more cold hardy flowers. But as we enter into March, that's going to start changing here in zone 6B7. I'm in Kentucky. I know I get asked that a lot. I always try to remember to tell you guys. Anyway, my last frost date is usually about April 30th-ish. So with that in mind, I am going to be thinking about starting my flower seeds that are tender to frost. Those are the ones that cannot handle a frost. And in doing so, it will be important to remember, of course, that if there is a threat of frost or if there is a particularly cold night, I will have to go out of my way to make sure I am protecting the seedlings that have emerged. If the seed tray is just out there and the seeds have not germinated yet, and it's going to be a little on the cold side, that's not a big deal. But if the seedlings are actively growing and have emerged, then that's when I want to protect them if there is going to be an issue with that. So getting right into this, the first thing that I should do is I should look at all my seed packets and divide them into kind of categories. Ideally, I want to divide them into categories by seeds that germinate fast but maybe, grow very, very slowly. And I guess it could be two categories, and seeds that germinate fast and the seedlings are big and they grow very fast. That's how we're going to know, maybe I need to start this one a little sooner. Maybe I need to start this one a little later. So if I'm getting into this, so azuratum, for example, I know that azuratum is actually a native wildflower in my region, or I don't know if it's native, but I definitely have seen it growing wild. I don't know if it was introduced, but that's neither here nor there. I know that azuratum will germinate very quickly using the winter sowing method, but I also know that the seeds are teeny tiny, and in that, of course, the seedlings are very small. And so if I have those seedlings in a tray for a long amount of time, it's not really going to be a big deal. And ideally, I can start those at the beginning of March because I know that by the time they're ready to transplant out, they're going to be the perfect size. They're not going to be too big. They're just going to be just the right size to start getting established into the garden. They'll have less competition with weeds as they get established, and they'll be off to a really good start. The same is also true with something like my aster flowers. The aster flowers, the seedlings are a pretty good size. They germinate really well using this method, and they stay relatively small. They get kind of big, so I don't start them the same time as something like azuratum. They're definitely more of one of the in-between flowers that I can start in the month of March to have transplants. I should also mention during March, you can still continue to sow hardy annuals like calendula and bupleurum and things like that, and bachelor's buttons. You can still continue to do so. There's still plenty of time to plant those out in the garden. You'll get blooms, but my main focus is going to be on the tender annual flowers. Cosmos are another one that I can sow now. Of course, a lot of cosmos you can direct sow them, but if you have, say, a special variety, like this year I bought apricot lemonade is what it's called, which is kind of a antique looking blend of yellow and pink, which I'm really interested to see, but the seed packets don't have very many seeds in them, so I'm not going to direct sow. I am going to take special care of these seeds, and I am going to winter sow them. And I'm just going to do that around the end of March, maybe the beginning of April, because again, I know these seeds are large. I know that the seedlings grow very, very fast, and I really need to be taking into account, the space, the timing, and the size they're going to get in the tray before I am able to transplant them out. It's very important. I find that March is a good time to start dahlias from seeds if you're ever attempting to grow dahlias from seeds. I don't really do it too much anymore. I used to. I've grown dahlias from seeds in the past. I think that's something that I want to get into again. Hopefully, maybe this year if we grow dahlias, we can save some of our own dahlia seeds. I think that would be really awesome. Now is also a good time to start a lot of, vining seeds, things like hyacinth beans. Again, another really large one that you want to wait. I definitely, things like hyacinth beans, sunflowers, I would not winter sow those until about 2 to 3 weeks before your last frost date, because the growth on those and the space in the tray are going to be very big. That's how their seedlings are big. They're going to transplant well. You won't have any problems with it, likely. I never have, at least. But you do need to take into account their size after germination. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record here. Also, now's a good time for amaranth. A lot of people say amaranth do not transplant well. I've had success with them. I don't break them apart individually. I tend to plant the amaranth in smaller clumps rather than break them apart. But again, it's up to you. You can always direct sow amaranth. It is a very fast grower. It's really just, preference. The same is also true with a lot of the different ornamental grasses and globe amaranth or gomphrena. Gomphrena is another one that I'm going to be winter sowing here in March. Great colorful flowers. Usually do pretty well with a winter sowing, but do seem to prefer a little bit more heat, so maybe wait till a little bit later in March to do that. I'm also going to be winter sowing my celosia here at the end of March. Again, another one that prefers heat and really just needs that heat to germinate. So I really want to be smart about that and, wait till the end when things have started to really warm up to plant that. Other things I'm trying to think of. Other things like the marigolds. Perfect time to germinate marigolds using the winter sowing method. The size of the seedlings will depend on whatever type that you purchase, whatever type of seed you purchase. So again, making those 3 piles, which seedlings are going to remain small in the tray and need to be started a little bit earlier. What seedlings are going to be kind of a medium size and need to be started, maybe in the middle of March, and what seedlings are going to be the biggest and need to be started maybe at the end of March or even into April because their size will be so large. Here in my zone, I usually don't have a problem with having enough heat in the hoop house, but you do want to take that into account to make sure you are managing the temperatures, correctly to get the best results possible. Also, starting this time of year are my nasturtiums. A lot of people say to soak the nasturtium seeds. I definitely do not do that when I'm winter sowing, even though they are the round hard seeds. Don't soak them because it really does increase the chance of root rot. Not root rot, seed rot, whatever. I find that just planting them into the moist potting mix and putting them into my low tunnel, they do really well. They germinate really well. I've had almost 100% germination with nasturtium this way. And I failed a lot when I did soak them. So I wouldn't soak them, but end of March, another good time, another big seedling to take into account, of course. Also, I've done this method with tons of things, even things like scarlet runner beans, which you can easily, direct sow into the garden. But, last year I had a terrible problem with slugs and some baby bunnies. I raised a family of baby bunnies in my backyard, and they just totally mowed through my beans. The baby bunnies love the bean plants. So, if I was going to grow them again, I could winter sow them and transplant them. I've done that before in the past. Didn't seem to have too much trouble with shock or anything like that. Really rounding out this video, we have things like the tithonia or Mexican sunflower. I really, really love to winter sow tithonia because they can be kind of unreliable direct sowed, I've noticed. Even though most seed packets do give you a lot of seeds, I've had spotty germination with it, but when I am able to winter sow it into a tray, I'm able to make a big nice row of the tithonia plants because I already have, which ones are germinated. I have healthy little seedlings that can go into the yard and just start growing and keep growing. Last but not least, of course, we have our sunflowers and zinnias. I've mentioned the sunflowers briefly. I usually don't even start the sunflowers until April just because they will get very tall in their trays, very quickly within 2 weeks. Sunflowers, of course, can be direct sowed, but like so many of our specialty cut flower plants, the seeds, they can be a little bit more expensive. For example, if you have purchased a Pro Cut series sunflower that are pollen free and they're hybrids, you want to make sure that you are going to get results from every single seed that you plant, because they're a little bit more costly and maybe you don't feel as comfortable direct sowing. I know this is the case for me personally because I have cardinal birds, like tons of cardinal birds, and it's like they have a radar. It's like they're watching me. I plant the sunflower seeds and within 10 minutes I've got 20 cardinal birds out there picking out every seed I planted. It's weird. But if I do transplant sunflower seedlings that are a little bit bigger, I lose drastically less plants. There is an occasional bird that will pluck out a seedling when I'm not looking, but in general they tend to leave it alone much more. The same is also true for planting zinnias. Of course, if you have a bulk, kind of generic seed pack mix, go ahead and direct sow them. They'll do great. Direct sow them after last chance of frost. But if you are planting something a little more specific to cut flowers, maybe some of the Ben Aries Giant mix or the Zinderella mixes, or something that just costs a little bit more money and you want to be more careful and more deliberate with what you're doing, winter sowing is definitely a great option. I usually wait till about the end of March for those too, because we really want to make sure they're getting enough warmth and making sure that they're not going to be troubled with any kind of mildew or anything like that while they're germinating. So usually end of March for me here in my garden. By the time the end of April rolls around, my last frost date, time to transplant out, things are looking absolutely awesome, and they are the perfect size to get a nice head start on the weeds, beat out the competition and everything, and really get growing. That's really about it for this video. I hope that it was helpful. Of course, March is a great time to winter sow some of the tender vegetable plants as well, so things like tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. The size of those transplants will be a little bit smaller, you'll find, in most cases, but they nearly always catch up with the full size of anything that you could have started under a grow light. Not to mention, they are so healthy. I've had a lot of success doing this method with both vegetables and cut flowers. It really is. It's been a serious game changer for me, and I hope that it works out for you. If you like this video and you're new here, be sure to subscribe. I'd love to have you. Tell your friends all about it. We're trying to grow the channel. Make a lot of gardening videos, sometimes some DIY projects. So if you like a surprise, you might like it here too. I hope that you are having an amazing day, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.